And let me share my screen, my friend. But before we do, okay, let me just get this.
Hold on.
So this, David, this is a structured interview that will be transcribed and will go into my next book, in which you are featured significantly.
Okay.
The book is called Conversational Selling, where relationships matter, so too do conversations. And you are a master of the conversations that lead to attracting and retaining the right clients. So the purpose of the interview is to learn more about how you engage in conversations to help your clients achieve what is important to them. And what we're going to do is follow the structured framework of basically my asking you a series of questions. The first of which is every business must get three questions right. Who is the right client? Your ideal client profile. What is the right value proposition? The clarity of your value proposition drives everything. And what is the fair exchange of value? What does your client receive and what do you derive in return? High-performing advisors like yourself apply the principle: the narrower your focus, the bigger your opportunity. You have a clearly defined target market. A target market is characterized by people who have common needs, wants, and values, know each other, and have a pattern of communicating with each other. When you go to your target market, you go with a specific topic. And so it may be legacy, helping people create, protect, and preserve wealth multi-generationally. That's the topic. And the leading idea is that without planning, often multi-generational wealth transition that leads to harmony in the family and success over generations breaks down. You have a sales system, you have a sales process, the arc of conversations. You apply sales skills and you create client capital, value after the sale, and then final thoughts. But before we get to that, could you just take maybe 5 minutes and tell your story about how you got started in financial services and what gives you meaning in your work? How did you choose this work?
So obviously, so you're giving me a very difficult job to give me my life in 5 minutes.
You can take 10, my friend.
I can't just give it away, but let me start by how I entered this business because my brother, who I'm very close to, who is very successful in the real estate business, suggested that after I asked him if he has any opportunity for me in the real estate business, I wanted to go to take real estate license. And there was a school in the neighborhood that was doing a class, and he suggested that it wouldn't be a good idea for me. He told me that he's been a broker working on a deal for 9 months. The last minute, the whole deal comes apart and nothing materializes. The satisfaction is not there. He suggested that I go look for something else. He told me that he has a friend who's involved in the financial services industry, estate planning. He didn't even know what he was saying, but he just felt that it's something that I should look into. And the rest is history. Talking about what means, what exactly, why I do what I do, and whatever. Obviously, what comes first? Is it the passion, or it's the equity and the financial opportunity that it brings you? So, of course, I started out in this industry because I wanted to make a living and I wanted to be successful, and that was a bridge to my success. But now, having the relationships and the experience of life, and I could technically, if I want to do anything, I'm not talking about being a doctor, but if I want to do anything in business, I probably would be capable utilizing my skill sets. But I would not exchange this for anything else, simply because day in and day night, whenever I meet up with any prospective client, prospect, or new relationships, I see how desperately they need someone like myself, where they can actually share their life story. It's very lonely out there for successful and wealthy individuals. They really don't have many people they can talk to. Their accountant is very limited of what they can do for them. I mean, they're very specifically focused on filings and maybe a tax strategy, but that's about it. We get very deeply involved in their lives, and their relationships, what keeps them up at night, their future, their present, their past. So it's a very rewarding. And if in the same time we get compensated for our work, imagine having, people ask me what your hobby is. So it's people have their runners, their joggers. They love swimming. My hobby is my business. I love being with my clients. I love opening up new relationships. I love the surprises. I love that I have the ability of opening up conversations that if the client says, like, 5, 10, 15 minutes in the conversation, I can't even believe I shared this with you. Like, and I say, I do believe, because that's what I do. And I asked the right questions, and that leads to the right triggers and why they actually share what I want them to share. So it's very rewarding.
It's wonderful. That was a beautiful description, and you did it in less than 10 minutes. That was fantastic. So let's follow a framework, my friend. So as I mentioned earlier, there are three questions that every successful advisor must get right. The first is, who is the right client? Your ideal client profile. And from what you described, we would highlight that you are working predominantly with legacy builders, people who have achieved success and now are looking at creating, protecting, and preserving wealth multi-generationally. Is that a fair statement?
Correct.
That's great. So what are some of the other characteristics of the right client that define whom you want to work with?
So first of all, the right client profile is ultra wealthy individuals, family businesses, people who have multi relationships on different levels, from personally and professionally. Their life is pretty complex, and they're very lonely, as I said before. They need someone they can talk to, someone that can listen to them, someone that can listen to the things they're not even saying or sharing, just in between the lines. What is not being expressed, which is probably the most important thing. My ideal client is technically not the money part, is more the personality. I'm extremely overly sensitive to people that have a care, and people who have an appreciation of our process. People that are flexible, and they are obviously unique in their space, but ultimately, if it's a client that either is doesn't have the right attitude, or not as flexible as I want them to be, or you can mold them, we would basically, after the first interview, people look at it, when it comes to interviewing a client, that the client is interviewing you. I always tell my clients, this is a both way interview. We're trying to identify if we are for each other's. There's nothing wrong after meeting up once or twice. And sometimes I try to do this on a phone call, a kickoff call before the meeting, which I try to pay attention to, instead of having a meeting and then being surprised at the meeting, this is not for me. We just have an initial soft phone call, and we would basically part from each other very quickly. So personality is number one. That's the right client. And of course, people ask me, like, why does it need to be such a high net worth? Why would you have a problem just meeting anyone who's primarily successful? I tell them basically it's not best use of my time. And we're looking for people who have complexity. They have real issues that need to be addressed. And it would be very difficult. It's like a contractor who stopped doing extensions or building small houses. We're building skyscrapers. We're building bridges and tunnels. We're building humongous futures, and that's where we shine, and that's where we thrive. So we're looking for the big ones.
That's how you thrive, my friend. So that's a very nice segue. So the right client is a successful family business or family in business. You're dealing with a patriarch and patriarch and matriarch. You're working multi-generationally. Factors, age, income, net worth, type of business. It's also the psychographic, the quality, the attributes, the character.
I'm perfectly fine if it's a 2-year-old too, as long it fits. Their personality is there, and they have the complexity. I don't care about their age.
Yeah,
Now, of
exactly. No,
course,
that's right. Well, that's a good example. Yeah.
it would be very rare for someone at a very young age to have all those issues. Therefore, most of the time, it will always be someone on a senior level and an older, mid-age. But I've had some younger junior clients that came my way that I was very impressed that what they've accomplished at a very young age, and I could relate to them because I remember when I was young.
Exactly, because but also you have achieved a great deal at a very early age. So you've gotten three questions right: right client, right value. Who is the right client? What is the right value proposition? What is the right exchange of value? You're very clear about your target market. You're dealing with individuals and families that are
Did I
often
did did,
affluent.
did, did I tell you what value I provide?
Well, I wanted to get to that. Yes.
Okay.
So thank you. I think in summary, the value you provide is you help successful people deal with the complexities that wealth brings. So let's get specific. What's the topic that you address when you're dealing with these successful individuals and families that have complex situations?
Succession planning. This is our first conversation. I find that people live better today when they know that tomorrow is taken care of. They don't have to tiptoe.
That's a beautiful statement, by the way, my friend.
So if in order to live a better tomorrow, you got to live it today. In order to live it today, you got to address everything that keeps you away from living it today. And that is if you have family members that are in your way, who's going to be building the business when you're not around, when you're at retirement age, who's putting in the energy to build this business for the future, or protection for those who are not involved in the business, protection for your spouse, everything around succession and family harmony. That is where I focus. I tell people estate tax is a very technical or you can take it out of the book. There's specific rules that you need to do to shrink and freeze estates, which can easily be done. It doesn't make a difference if you're worth $1 billion or $100 million. The process is pretty much the same. You do valuations, you transfer over assets. The valuations, you try to get a low valuations, you get minority discounts, you sell the asset to trust, you give the asset to trust. You just do a repeatable process again and again and again and again. And even if you don't do any estate tax planning, your kids get half. That's perfectly fine. I don't care about the dollar amount. What I care about is the harmony, and that's what people really care about. That's the biggest asset is your family. And if the family falls apart because of poor planning, then nothing was worth it. So we've seen firsthand the most sophisticated law firms that are extremely tax driven, and it's a dead document. The document doesn't really say much. You can see that the documents were driven because of a tax strategy, not a people strategy, not a family strategy, and not a harmony strategy. It was everything around how do we reduce the estate tax versus how do we reduce tension.
It's wonderful. That is great. So basically, if I could synthesize, the topic is fundamentally that your clients want they are building a successful business, having a successful career. They want to live a fulfilling life, and they want to create a powerful legacy. And that powerful legacy involves not simply the transition of wealth, but also the assurance that families will live in harmony multi-generationally. Is that a fair statement? That's wonderful. So tell us about your sales system, how you go to market, because you have a unique way of serving your clients, and it's driven by your mastery of conversations. Where relationships matter, so too do conversations. So take us through. Is it a multi-interview format? What does it look like and sound like?
First of all, it's not a sales system. Obviously, everything it has to be system based in order if you want to have a predictable outcome. But I always tell my clients that everything you do in life is a sale. Correct? You are selling to your wife for that relationship. You're selling to your kids for them to accept and agree a certain approach. Wherever you are, you may not realize it, but you're selling something. So a relationship is also a sale. I actually was once kidding around. It's not something that should be recorded, but my first sale I ever done was selling God to bring me down to earth. So ultimately, we all We all sell all day long. But as far as how we obtain clients coming our way, it simply is excellence. If you are positioned as being the go-to person for a specific area of expertise, people just simply chase you. People run after you. There's not enough time in the day that to fill up. I mean, there's not meaning to provide of how many people actually need your services. If you simply just do it right. Been asked multiple times, David, what do you do? So I tell people what others say they do. And the difference between doing and saying what you're doing, there's a very big difference. And the idea is don't just say you will do it, just do it. Take care of the person and execute. Deliver what you said you will. And if you continuously do exactly, you'll always go back to a provider if the person you've had a good experience and you got the value out of that vendor or that resource, you would recommend them to others, and you would basically go back whenever you need that services again. So sales is really a buy, correct? There's no sale if there's no buy. I find that you want to know what's the process. I was once approached by a wine store, and they wanted me before the holiday, and they were asking me who is my provider for the holiday gifts to my clients. I said, you have to ask my clients where they buy the gifts for me. And he took him a minute to realize that why would you think that I'm the one providing gifts? You know how many times I've had clients after I've finished and I made $1 million check or a transaction, how much do I owe you? Or they would ask me, what can I still do for all the services? I said, well, I made a heck of a lot of money from this relationship. People wouldn't realize that, but they have so much appreciation of the outcome that they literally feel that like they underpaid and they want to pay us more for service. So the goal is that it should not be a sale. The goal is it should be a natural buy that happens simply because you're the most wanted individual in that area of expertise. It's almost like you go to a doctor or a neurosurgeon for a specific thing. You would ask the doctor, like, how do you do the sale for people to come? If someone has a brain tumor, you're going to go to the best doctor to remove that tumor. So who is selling to who? Is the patient selling to the doctor to take him as a patient, or the doctor is selling to the patient for them to come their way? And of course, you always have to brand. You got to position yourself well to be known well in the community, and you constantly have to make sure that you share widely of your capabilities. But it's not a sale; it's about branding.
So that's wonderful. That is fantastic. We're going to have to wrap up in a few minutes, my friend. Can you kind of synthesize and sort of pull together what you've described? And I wanted to frame it in this way. As you know, when people ask us, what is the common denominator or the single differentiator that separates high performance from the average? Is there one common denominator? Our answer is yes. What we're about to tell you may surprise you. When you ask a high performer what makes them successful, they will readily tell you. When you observe what makes them successful, it's usually not what they tell you. The single most important differentiator between high performers like yourself and the average is the time horizon or time frame in which you think and act, plan and implement. And you've described that very well, that in your work, you've chosen to help successful individuals and families deal with the complexities that wealth brings multi-generationally. That can span 20, 50, 100 years or more. And there's an art and a science to that. How do you apply that in sales where you integrate marketing, sales, and client relationship management? So you mentioned, for example, that it's not about sales, it's about branding. And one of the things that distinguishes you is your credibility. People talk about trust as the foundation of relationships, and that's true. In the work you do, though, you have to go beyond trust because you have to really establish credibility, because credibility is trust and belief in. So it's that people trust you. Equally, if not more important, they believe in your capability to make a difference in their lives. And that involves three types of credibility. One is personal credibility. It is your character, how people view you. And people view you as a man of integrity, of humility, of dedication, and of passion. It is how they view you professionally, your knowledge and expertise, the commitment you have made to lifelong learning. And the third is they view you professionally. It is the way in which you go about doing what you do. It is the procedural aspects of your business, doing common things uncommonly well. So could you speak to how you build that credibility before, during, and after the sale to create value where that client will say, you are they appreciate what you do more than they don't feel they've paid you enough for what you do.
So first of all, in any conversation, in any knowledge transfer between two parties, there's always going to be hard facts and soft facts. Okay, hard facts is what you can see on paper. Hard facts is a financial instrument. If it's a policy or a contract or a financial statement, you could actually upload that information through various different digital or digital capabilities to do that transfer of information. I think that soft data is key. And I walk into a meeting, in any conversations, I don't take any notes. The reason I purposely don't take any notes because I am fully focused to really listen. And when you really listen, okay, and you care, you simply never have to ever write down any notes because you are just so tuned in to what the client is sharing with you that you'll always remember it forever. I could have a 2-hour conversation, a very deep and meaningful conversation with a client, and I will do a recap and I will tell him everything he shared with me so we actually see that I listen. People get blown away and shaken by the fact that I actually remember. And the reason why I remember, and I always tell people, not because I have a very good memory. I know there are people who have a much better memory. It's because when you pay attention, okay, and if you actually have been through a scene, either watched an accident happening, you will remember that experience forever. You could always repeat the story second by millisecond, exactly what transpired. There's no reason for you to write down the story. You remember it. So my conversations with clients are stories. My conversation with clients, I deeply care about every detail and every fact about every child. And clients are looking for a partner that they can actually talk to and someone who's actually going to listen to. So as far as deepening relationships and what gets a client to tick is they're very lonely and they're very few or no one to talk to. And when they actually find someone who has a very deep understanding and a macro understanding of the financial lives and all the moving parts, and can actually also identify issues that were not even addressed. And I think that that's also critically important, and also quick wins. Since anything in planning could take a very long time, it's a process, correct? You want to have a quick win. Clients get very tired when it's a long process, and so what I try to do during the sub process is it actually find something that we could actually impress and deliver and solve for them, and then of course agree to advance and do more.
It's awesome. Thank you, my friend. That was wonderful.
Thank you, Norm.
We need to wrap up. Is there one final thought that you could share that has contributed significantly to your success? You've provided so many insights and pearls of wisdom.
So first of all, my one line, if you ask me one line, it would be there's out there great resources for you to learn about other successful people. Don't reinvent the wheel. Of course, we're innovative and we all want to do our very best to do things in our own way. But keep in mind that people like Norm Trainer, I don't think there's anyone like Norm Trainer, but just to get the point, there's out there successful professional people that can help you and support you along the way. So I very fortunate that at a very young age I was introduced to you, who has had a significant impact into my thought process. And the Talmud says, "A Talmud hamachkem as rabbi." What that means is a student that oversmarts their rabbi. So in other words, but you still need to have a rabbi who actually advises you and guides you and gives you insight, then you could oversmart him. So I have a tremendous amount of appreciation for God that he actually made that introduction, that we got to know each other.
That's wonderful. Thank you, my friend. That was
Thank you.
amazing. We
Thank you
will
so much.
we'll send you the transcript before it goes into the book, so you approve of it. But
And exactly, and
that was amazing.
send me the video too. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. You take care. Talk soon.